What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the Hard Road Fitness Podcast. Podcast is coming a little bit later, still going to be coming, where we start building a game plan and start putting together tools that we can find around the house to become part of our workout plan. That's still coming. But just like I explained in my first episode, I think we talked about in the second video too. The 75 hard plan, it's a lifestyle. And that lifestyle is not just for, building muscle and losing fat and being physically fit. It's more based on your mental fitness, your mental well-being, your mental capability to deal with day-to-day issues and problems that may arise so that you don't get stuck. So part of my mental workout that I do every day is I have a VA group, whether it's on video or whether it's in person, it helps you work through, prepare, gain tools, and sharpen those tools so that whenever you may have to use them, they're ready to rock and roll. Didn't really realize until we were in group today that we're coming up on Memorial Day. It's very important that you separate Veterans Day from Memorial Day. And this is why. So typically on a Veterans Day, say Happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service. You might shake a hand, right? But for Memorial Day is not about us, the ones that are still here. It's literally about mourning the loss of the fallen. When I say the fallen are those who raised their hand, took that oath, and basically agreed. They agreed to go fight for you and me, just like I did, knowing that may cost them their lives. It may cost them the ultimate sacrifice. I believe it was General Patton that said, "Don't die for your country. Make the sorry son of a bitch on the other side die for his." I say that because I remember growing up hearing the greatest glory that you can earn as a man is to lay your life down for the country that you love. Patton had a different idea. He also had a whole bunch of tanks. So, saying happy Veterans Day, thank you for your service, that works perfectly fine. But when it comes to Memorial Day, whether it's a veteran or whether it's a family member of the fallen, it's not really a happy day. Doesn't mean that we don't celebrate the life that those people lived. It means that we lost so many brothers and sisters over a short period of time that they give us one day. One day. That's it. That doesn't mean that our brothers that have fallen, I don't know if you can see that, but that's a Marine burial, soldier's burial, whatever you want to call it. We don't just think about it just one day. But we're only 1% of the population. And when that 99% of the population is more worried about protesting with signs over wars that we're not involved in, a half a world away, and as they're protesting, they're stepping over not only our veterans, which I think is about 200,000 now, that are on the streets, living homeless. And then the countless number of American citizens that they step over, that many of you walk right past, that have been forgotten. To protest something that has nothing to do with us. I want you to understand, I'm not against going and helping others. Obviously, I joined up to serve. But when you're on an airplane and the mask falls from the ceiling, you think back to the instructions that the stewardess gave you at the beginning of the flight. What did he or she say? They said, put the mask on yourself first before you help your neighbor, before you help your children, before you help anybody else around you. Be selfish. Because you can't be selfless until you are selfish. It's okay to be selfish. As long as, while you're being selfish, or the reason why you're being selfish, is to make sure that you, yourself, you are making yourself better. Because you can be selfish and make yourself worse too. But what it implies when it says put the mask on yourself first before you put it on anybody else means take care of yourself first. Because if you pass out in the chair next to your son, daughter, someone else, elderly, whatever, if you're passed out, you can't help them. If you only have $50 left in your bank account, and your wife and your kids, or your husband and your kids, are starving, and then you find out that the neighbor and his wife and his kids are starving, are you going to give the money to them? Are you going to help them? Before you take care of your family, before you take care of your home, before you take care of your four walls? No, you're not. So there's nothing wrong with saying, let's take care of our home first. Once we're good to go, I have no problem helping anybody else. But when we send a one-time payment, $720 or $780, whatever it was, to Hawaii, a one-time payment to the people that literally lost everything. And simultaneously, we send over $100 billion to Ukraine. when they did the calculations and said that it would take anywhere between 4 and 6 billion, which by the way is the exact amount that they just happened to misplace. The Pentagon misplaced $6 billion somehow. And they accidentally sent it to Ukraine, but it was okay because they were already going to send it there anyways. But that didn't change Hawaii's payment. That didn't change the fact that we didn't send anybody out there to start rebuilding. In fact, there's certain politicians' families, celebrities, people with capability that actually went over and started doing it before the government ever did. But it was more important to send that money overseas to a war that we have nothing to do with, that we've actually instigated, told Ukraine to not make a deal with Putin. Could have saved hundreds of thousands or millions of lives. I don't know what the tally is up to at this point. Because as soon as Israel started up, they stopped talking about Ukraine. And now we're sending money there. Again, to a war. Two countries. That we don't have nothing to do with. Yes, Israel is an ally. I understand that. So is my next door neighbor. I'm still not putting food in his kid's mouth before I put food in mine. Purpose of Memorial Day is to be thankful, grateful, of the ultimate sacrifice. That they willingly put their hand up, stepped on them yellow footprints, and said, I will build the invisible wall that the 99% will never have to see, never have to think about, so that they can keep going on with their day-to-day lives. So if you see a veteran and you mess up, say Happy Memorial Day. If they get upset, just understand that they're still not through mourning. And they don't understand why you are. But it's not your fault. Because you have no way of truly understanding. So just correct yourself. Say thank you for your service. Put your hand out. Shake their hand if they choose to. And understand that when we get out of the military, this is an alien world and we are aliens to it. Because we're programmed differently. We understand things differently. We see things differently. And all we truly want is just to be accepted and reunited back into the community. That's a hard and a long road to hoe to get there. From the day that I got out of the Marine Corps in 2007, I used to always say that I was trying to install the off switch that the Marine Corps never issued nor installed. They installed an on switch, aimed us towards the enemy, said go. We spent however long that we've had to since we get out, because there's guys that are still getting out right now, every day, that will spend many years trying to figure out how to turn that switch off. Recently in group, we kind of came to an understanding of that turning it off would basically turn us off. So it's not an off switch we're searching for to install. It's a dimmer switch to find a happy in the middle. But weekends like this coming up, especially with the way that the world is right now, there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to have an issue. You could say a chip on their shoulder, or just carrying a lot of weight because they're carrying the weight of their brothers that didn't make it home. And they haven't found a way to drop their pack, so to speak. Drop that weight. So besides altering from saying happy Memorial Day to thank you for your service, I also ask that at some point during this coming weekend, take the time to acknowledge the fallen. Take the time to acknowledge your freedom that they provided and continue to provide with that invisible wall that you never have to worry about. Be grateful for those men and women, as well as those that have come home lost. They're sleeping on the streets. That are being forgotten, stepped over. So I ask you to do this too. The elections are coming. Pay attention to what's on the ballot. And I'm not talking about Democrat or Republican. I'm not talking about Trump or Biden. I'm not even talking about your governors or mayors or whoever else that you vote for. I'm talking about going down just a little bit further down that line and start paying attention to it when they send out the practice ballot. Send that so that you can look up what's actually on the ballot and what all of it means. Voting is not a privilege. It's a duty as a citizen of America. And as a citizen of America, you're American. You're not African American, you're not Asian American, you're not Mexican American, you're not even Native American. You're American first. The countries that your families came from, that's your heritage. We try to take that from you. But when you chose to become a citizen, or when you were born a citizen, or when your families chose to become a citizen, or they were born citizens, you are a citizen of the United States of America, the greatest country on the planet. Not a perfect country. It's never once been said. In fact, when the founders set the doctrine, it was never saying this was a perfect country. It was saying, in the pursuit of a more perfect country, we do ordain in the time since the founders, the elite politicians have learned that all they got to do is pin black versus white, versus brown, versus yellow, versus red, versus Democrat, versus Republican, versus Christian, versus atheist, versus this, versus that, da 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 da. And they keep us fighting. They keep us arguing. They keep us ununited. Because they know that if we unite, they can never again ignore our voice. So let's start taking pride in being American again. Put a flag up on your house like it used to be when I was growing up. There was very few houses that didn't have a flag, and most of the time it was because the flag was tattered, so they pulled it down and they hadn't gotten a new one yet. We weren't rioting in the streets over things that had nothing to do with us. Wars, conflicts. We weren't so susceptible to letting the elite say one thing on this side or one thing on that side and aim us both at each other, and just it was like a death match that they just sat back and watched. Let us fight while they do whatever they do behind our backs and get richer. So this is how you respect this weekend. This is how you respect the fallen. This is how you thank them for the ultimate sacrifice that they signed up for. The only country in the world that we sign up for it. We volunteer for it. We know by doing that, it may mean that we may never step foot on our country's land again. We may never see our homes, our families, ever again. But we stand and we fight. Some of us die for that invisible wall. So explain to your children. Explain to adults if they don't know. If you have family from different countries, or if you have newly minted citizens, immigrants, explain to them why we get Monday off. And give a moment of silence. Whether it's by yourself or as a group, when you wake up in the morning, or before you guys have dinner together as a family or family and friends, when you're out at the lake, the river, or you're just sitting on the couch in sweatpants catching up on Netflix. None of that would be possible without the sacrifice of the fallen. So to those of us that got home, I request that you simply just say thank you for your service with a handshake. For those who didn't, and not just this war, every war, we still have World War II veterans that are still alive to this day that lost brothers and sisters and cousins and uncles and has watched how much the world has changed after their sacrifice. Take the time to acknowledge, be grateful, be thankful. And above all else, be proud to be an American. Be proud to live in the greatest country in the world. And if you still don't think that this is the greatest country in the world, take a plane. Go visit a third world country, second world country. You probably won't make it off the tarmac before you're pounding on the door trying to get back on the plane. Are we perfect? No. But it is up to each and every one of us to make it better than it was the day before. So pay attention when you're voting. Pay attention to those that don't have as much as you have. Put your hand out and help somebody if you can. Or raise your voice towards Washington, D.C. Make sure you vote. Make sure you understand what you're voting for. Make sure you understand who you're voting for. Again, I don't mean Democrat or Republican. I mean us. You're voting for us, for yourself, for your kids, for your parents, for your wife, your husband, your brothers, your sisters, your grandparents, your neighbors, and for the fallen. Have an amazing weekend. Enjoy the sun. Enjoy the water. Enjoy the couch. Enjoy whatever you're going to enjoy. But take the time to be grateful. Chin up. Eyes front. Chest forward. Keep on moving down that hard road. Have a great American day, great American night, and a great American weekend. Enjoy it, because somebody else already paid for it.